You want to know what real madness is? It's not the screaming matches you see in movies. It's the silence. The deafening, soul-crushing silence of a person you've loved for 4 years looking at you like you're a stranger. Like you're the monster in their story. My name is Alara. I'm 21, and apparently, I'm the villain. All because I had the courage to admit our story was over. Liam and I were a fixture, an institution. We started dating when I was 17, a kid in a summer haze who thought love was about stolen glances across a bonfire. 4 years. An entire lifetime, really. From high school graduation to the confusing, sprawling mess of Crestwood University, we navigated it all together. But the together had started to feel less like a comfort and more like a cage. The change was subtle at first. The Liam I fell for was all spontaneous road trips and laughing until 3 in the morning. The Liam of the last year, he was a planner, a worrier. He'd text if I was 5 minutes late coming from the library. He'd ask who was at the table when I said I was grabbing coffee with friends. He called it caring. It felt like surveillance. I remember the exact moment the first crack appeared. We were in his cramped apartment, the one that always smelled faintly of turpentine from his painting hobby. I was talking about a new poet I'd discovered in my literature seminar, my voice full of excitement. He was just staring at me, not listening, just watching. "What?" I asked, the enthusiasm draining from my voice. He blinked. "Nothing. Just, you're beautiful when you're passionate about something." It should have been sweet, but it wasn't. It was the comment of an observer, a spectator, not a participant. He wasn't sharing my passion. He was just cataloging it. Another fact about his girlfriend, Alara. And then there was Julian. Julian wasn't a plan. He was a happy accident, a collision. He was in that same literature seminar, the one Liam had no interest in. Julian had this way of challenging every idea, of turning a boring lecture into a fiery debate. He had eyes that actually saw you when you spoke. It started with coffee after class, to argue a point about Keats. That coffee turned into 2 hours, then 3. We talked about everything and nothing. His love for old jazz records, my secret desire to write a novel, things I hadn't realized I'd stopped talking to Liam about. With Julian, it was effortless. It was breathing. With Liam, it had become a performance. He just doesn't get it, you know? I told Julian one rainy Tuesday, tucked into a booth at the Daily Grind. I feel like I have to shrink myself down to fit into the box he's made for me. The good, stable girlfriend box. Enda. Julian stirred his espresso, his gaze intense. "A bird that beautiful shouldn't be in a box, Alara." My heart did a stupid little flutter. A flutter I hadn't felt in years. A week later, that flutter turned into a fire. We were studying in a quiet corner of the campus library. Our hands brushed, reaching for the same book. The electricity was so real, so tangible, I thought the whole room must have heard it. He didn't pull away. I didn't either. Later that night, he walked me to my dorm. Under the pale glow of a street lamp, he leaned in and kissed me. It wasn't a hungry, desperate kiss. It was a kiss of recognition, like a key finally finding its lock. In that moment, I didn't feel guilt. I felt relief. I felt seen. That kiss was the period at the end of a very long sentence. I had to end it with Liam. It was the only decent thing to do. I owed him that. I rehearsed the speech in my head 100 times. I would be kind, but firm. I would be mature. This wasn't about Julian. It was about us. About our slow, painful decay. I sat him down on that same lumpy couch in his apartment. "Liam, we need to talk." The phrase hung in the air, thick and toxic. He put down his paintbrush, his knuckles white. "I said all the things you're supposed to say. I love you, but I'm not in love with you anymore. We've grown into different people. The spark is gone for me." I was honest. I was gentle. I was trying so hard to do it right. He just sat there, for what felt like an eternity. The silence was worse than shouting. Then he finally spoke, his voice raspy. "Is there someone else?" The question was a slap in the face. It was so cliché, so simplistic. He was trying to reduce the complex, aching chasm between us to a cheap affair. "No," I lied. The lie felt necessary. A small, white lie to protect his feelings, to make this cleaner. "This is about us. This isn't working." I saw the fight drain out of him. He just nodded, his eyes fixed on a spot on the floor. Then, because I couldn't stand the thought of him just vanishing from my life, I added the thing that would apparently become my cardinal sin. I don't want to lose you completely, I said, my voice genuine. You're my best friend, Liam. Can we, can we at least try to still be friends? He looked up at me then. And for the first time, I didn't see my boyfriend. I saw a stranger. A stranger with 4 years of my memories trapped behind his eyes. And he looked at me like I was the cruelest person on earth. He asked for space. I can't just flip a switch, Elara, he'd said, his voice flat, devoid of all the warmth I'd known for 4 years. I need space. And I, being the mature, understanding person I was trying to be, agreed. Of course. Space was healthy. Space was productive. I could give him space. For about a week in which the silence from his end of the world was deafening. Every notification on my phone made my stomach leap, hoping it was him. A sign that he was processing. That he was ready to start building our new, platonic normal. Nothing. Julian was a good distraction. He was all vibrant energy and validation. He's just hurt, Julian said as we walked through the autumn leaves scattered across the campus quad. He's lashing out by shutting you out. It's classic defense mechanism stuff. He'll come around. It made sense. Of course. Liam was just processing. I just needed to show him that I was still here, that the friendship I offered wasn't some empty platitude. So, I sent the text. Hey, just wanted to check in and see how you're doing. Hope you're okay. Simple, casual, friendly. The perfect, low-pressure message. I watched the little notification change from delivered to read, and then, nothing. For 3 whole days. He read it and deliberately chose to ignore me. The sting of that was sharper than I expected. Who does that? After 4 years of history, you can't even muster a simple, "I'm fine, thanks." It was petty. Childish even. Fine. Maybe texting wasn't the way. We needed a neutral space. The daily grind was our place. We'd spent hundreds of hours there, crammed into our favorite corner booth, fueled by caffeine and the stress of midterms. I knew he had a standing study session there on Thursday afternoons. I wasn't going to ambush him. I just wanted to be there, to exist in the same space, to show him it didn't have to be awkward. I walked in, ordered a latte, and saw him in our booth. His head was bent over a textbook, his brow furrowed in concentration. My heart ached with a familiar pang. I gave a small, friendly wave. His eyes flicked up. They met mine for a split second. There was no recognition. No warmth, just a flash of something cold. Panic, maybe? And then he just left. He packed up his books with frantic, jerky movements, shoved his laptop into his bag, and walked out without a single word. He left a half-full coffee cup steaming on the table. The whole cafe seemed to fall silent. I could feel the eyes of the baristas on me, the other students. I felt my face flush with a hot, creeping shame. He had made a scene out of nothing. He had deliberately rejected a simple, friendly gesture. My roommate, Maya, tried to be the voice of reason. "Alara, maybe you should just give him more time," she said gently that evening, finding me staring blankly at my laptop. "Breakups are hard. He probably just can't handle seeing you yet." "Handle it?" I scoffed, the bitterness rising in my throat. "We're not in middle school, Maya. We're adults. I ended a romantic relationship. I didn't declare war. All I want is my friend back. Why is he being so dramatic?" Maya didn't have an answer. I started asking our mutual friends, not in a prying way, just casual questions. "Hey, have you heard from Liam? Is he doing all right?" The responses were weird, evasive. Yeah, I think he's okay. Just busy with classes," our friend Jenna mumbled, suddenly very interested in her phone. It was like they were all in on some secret. A secret that I was the villain of. Jenna, who had come to me for advice about her own relationships countless times, eventually cracked. "Look, Ilara," she said, cornering me after a class. "He's told a few of us that he really needs space. From you, specifically. Maybe you should just let him heal." Heal? Heal from what? An honest, kind breakup? It wasn't a disease. It was a conversation. The more they pushed me away, the more I was convinced something was wrong. That Liam wasn't just healing. He was punishing me. He was holding our friendship hostage. And I wasn't going to let him. Meanwhile, Julian was my sanctuary. He'd listen for hours as I dissected every awkward interaction, every unanswered text. "It's a power play," he concluded one night, his arm wrapped around me as we lay on his bed. He lost control when you ended things, so now he's trying to control the narrative. Make you look like the crazy one for still caring. Don't fall for it. He was right. It was a game. And if it was a game Liam wanted to play, then he was about to find out I wasn't going to forfeit. My attempts to be normal were met with a wall of childish resistance. I'd organize a group movie night, a tradition we'd all shared for years, and casually mention it to him in a group chat. He'd either leave the chat or reply with a curt, "Can't make it." It was so transparent, so hurtful. He wasn't just avoiding me, he was fracturing our entire friend group. People started making separate plans, tiptoeing around the chasm that had opened between us. It was exhausting. I decided a grand gesture was in order. Something to remind him of the good times, of the person I was, the person who cared about him deeply, even if it wasn't romantic anymore. His mother used to bake these incredible oatmeal raisin cookies. He was obsessed with them. I spent a whole afternoon getting the recipe just right. I arranged them on a plate, covered them in wrap, and walked over to his apartment building. A peace offering, a symbol of our shared history. I knocked on the door. His roommate, Mark, answered. His eyes widened slightly when he saw me. "Oh, hey, Ilada." "Hey, Mark. Is Liam around? I just wanted to drop these off." Mark shifted his weight, refusing to meet my eyes. No. He's not here. Went to the library." It was a lie. A blatant, clumsy lie. Over his shoulder, I could see Liam's worn-out sneakers by the door. The ones he never wore out of the apartment. He was in there, hiding, like a child. I forced a smile, my hand tightening on the plate of cookies. "Oh, okay. Well, can you just make sure he gets these?" I left them there, feeling utterly foolish. The walk back to my dorm was a blur of indignation. He was actively hiding from me. He had enlisted his roommate in his ridiculous charade. This wasn't about healing. This was about malice. That's when I decided to go over his head. His mom and I had always been close. She'd called me the daughter she never had. She was a reasonable woman. A kind woman. She would see how absurd this all was. I found her on social media and crafted the perfect message. "Hi, Carol. Hope you're doing well. I know things are awkward right now with me and Liam, but I wanted to reach out and say that I miss you and the family terribly. You all meant so much to me for so long, and I hope we can still maintain some kind of connection. Thinking of you, X, Alara." It was perfect. Warm, respectful, and completely non-threatening. Any sane person would see it for what it was, an olive branch. 2 hours later, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. I answered. "Hello? Is this Alara?" The voice was sharp, cold. I recognized it instantly. It was Sophie, Liam's older sister. "Sophie? Hi. How are you?" "I'll be better when you stop harassing my family," she snapped. I was stunned into silence. "Harassing? What?" "I just sent your mom a nice message. My mom is upset, and Liam is furious. He asked you for space. What part of that do you not understand? It means no texts, no showing up at his apartment, and it definitely means you do not contact our mother. Leave us alone. All of us." Click. She hung up. I stared at my phone, my blood running cold and then hot with rage. He'd done this. He had twisted my innocent message into an act of harassment. He had gone to his family and painted me as some kind of obsessive stalker. He was systematically turning every single person who ever cared about me against me. This wasn't a breakup anymore. It was a coordinated attack. I told Julian everything, my voice shaking with a mixture of hurt and fury. He held me, stroking my hair. "I told you," he whispered, his voice a soothing balm on my frayed nerves. "It's a campaign. He's trying to isolate you, to make you the villain so he can be the victim. It's the oldest trick in the book for a guy with a bruised ego." The idea solidified in my mind, hardening from a suspicion into a concrete fact. Liam, the quiet, sensitive artist I had loved, was a master manipulator. He was orchestrating my social execution. And the worst part? It was working. My friends looked at me with pity. His family thought I was unhinged. He was erasing me, erasing our 4 years together and rewriting the story with him as the hero and me as the crazy ex-girlfriend. I felt a new kind of resolve settle in my bones. I wasn't going to let him win. I wasn't going to be erased. I had tried being kind. I had tried being mature. Now, it was time to fight for my own reputation. There were loose ends, tangible things. A hoodie of mine he still had, a a sketchbook of his that had been left at my place for months. It was a beautiful leather-bound book, full of his charcoal sketches, sunsets, portraits of strangers, dozens of drawings of me. It felt wrong to just throw it away. It felt passive-aggressive to leave it with his roommate. The mature thing to do, the considerate thing, was to return it to him in person. A simple, clean transaction. A final, definitive act of goodwill. I knew he worked part-time at the Crestwood Community Art Gallery downtown. It was a quiet, respectable place, perfect for a low-drama exchange. I checked his work schedule online. He was rostered for the Thursday evening shift, which was usually dead quiet. I walked in around 7. The gallery was nearly empty, just a couple browsing in the far corner. The air smelled of polished wood and old canvas. Liam was behind the front desk, sorting through some brochures. He looked up when the bell on the door chimed. His face changed the second he saw me. It wasn't just the coldness from the coffee shop. This was different. His jaw tightened. His friendly, customer service posture evaporated, replaced by something rigid and hostile. I gave him a small, placating smile and walked toward the desk, holding the sketchbook. "Hey," I said softly. "You left this at my place. I just wanted to return it." I placed it on the counter between us. He didn't even look at the book. His eyes were locked on mine, and they were burning with an intensity that startled me. "What are you doing here, Alara?" His voice was low, but dangerously tight. "I just told you. I'm returning your—" "No?" He cut me off. "What are you doing here?" "At my job?" The couple in the corner had stopped browsing. They were watching us. I felt a prickle of unease. "Liam, don't make this a thing," I whispered, leaning in slightly. "I'm just trying to be a decent person." That was the wrong thing to say. It was like I'd flipped a switch. He stood up straight, his voice suddenly rising, echoing in the quiet gallery. "A decent person? A decent person would respect the one thing I asked for. Space. But you can't do that, can you? You have to keep showing up. You have to keep pushing." My jaw dropped. I was completely shocked. He was doing this? Here? In public? "I am not showing up," I hissed back, trying to keep my own voice down. "I'm returning your property. What was I supposed to do? Burn it? You were supposed to leave me alone." He shot back, his voice even louder now. His boss emerged from a back office, her face a mask of confusion. The couple was now openly staring. "I don't know what part of don't contact me you don't get, but showing up at my workplace is harassment, Alara." Harassment. He used that word. That vile, loaded word. For returning a sketchbook, the humiliation was a physical thing. It washed over me in a hot, sickening wave. My cheeks were on fire. My hands started to shake. I couldn't even form a response. Here I was, trying to perform one last act of kindness, and he was publicly branding me as a criminal. A stalker. A harasser. "Get out," he said, his voice now low and menacing. "Get out of here before I call security." I looked around at the faces staring at me. His boss, looking alarmed. The couple, whispering to each other. They weren't seeing a girl trying to do the right thing. They were seeing exactly what Liam wanted them to see. A crazed, unhinged ex-girlfriend causing a scene. He had set me up. He had waited for an audience to finally play his trump card, to paint me as unstable in front of witnesses. I backed away from the counter, unable to speak. I turned and practically fled from the gallery, the little bell on the door mocking me as I burst out into the cool night air. I stood on the sidewalk, shaking, gasping for breath. It wasn't just about the breakup anymore. It wasn't about friendship. This was a character assassination. And the worst part? As I looked back through the large glass window, I saw his boss patting his shoulder comfortingly. The couple was looking at him with sympathy. He had won. In one loud, humiliating, perfectly executed performance, he had cemented his role as the victim. And I was the monster. The fallout was immediate, and it was brutal. By the next morning, the story of my meltdown at the gallery had spread through our social circle like a virus. And of course, it was Liam's version they all heard. The version where I'd shown up screaming, refusing to leave, and causing a massive scene over nothing. The truth didn't matter. The narrative was set. My phone, which had been buzzing with group chat notifications for years, fell silent. The first real blow came from Maya, my own roommate. She sat me down on our lumpy living room couch, her face etched with a kind of weary disappointment that was worse than anger. "We need to talk about your behavior, Alara." It wasn't a question. It was a verdict. My behavior? I asked, my voice dangerously quiet. What about his behavior? He humiliated me in public. He asked you to leave him alone, she said, as if it were the simplest thing in the world. He told our friends, his sister told you. How many people have to tell you before you listen? Going to his job it was too much. It's concerning. Concerning. The word hung in the air, clinical and cold. I was no longer a friend in pain. I was a problem to be managed. A case study in post-breakup obsession. I tried to explain about the sketchbook, about my good intentions, but her eyes were glazed over. She had already made up her mind. I was on the wrong side of the story now. The isolation was suffocating. Walking into the dining hall felt like walking onto a stage. I could feel the whispers, see the pointed glances. People I had known for years would suddenly find something fascinating on their phones when I approached. And then I heard the news that felt like the final nail in my coffin. Jenna mentioned it, almost as an afterthought, with a deliberate casualness that was meant to hurt. Oh, have you heard? Liam's seeing someone, a girl named Clara, who works at the gallery with him. She's apparently really sweet. Everyone thinks she's great for him. Enders. It felt like the air had been punched out of my lungs. It wasn't jealousy. Not really. It was the sheer, staggering injustice of it all. He had claimed he needed space to heal. An emotional journey that apparently only took him a few weeks and led him directly into the arms of a coworker. His healing was a lie. His need for space was a weapon. It was all a strategy to get rid of me so he could move on without an ounce of guilt. And everyone was celebrating it. I saw them a few days later, walking across the quad. Clara was laughing, her head thrown back, and Liam was looking at her with a soft, adoring expression I hadn't seen on his face in years. They looked happy, thriving. And the unspoken message was clear. He was thriving without me. My absence was the key to his happiness. Our 4 years together were a footnote, a dark chapter he had successfully closed. The narrative they were all buying into was that I was the storm, and Clara was the calm that followed. I confided in Julian, but even he was starting to seem distant. The drama was getting old. My obsession with the injustice of it all was no longer compelling. It was just sad. Maybe you should just focus on us, he suggested one evening, trying to pull me into a kiss. I pulled away. How can I? He's destroying my life, Julian. He's making everyone think I'm crazy. And he just gets to ride off into the sunset? I started trying to defend myself, but it was useless. When I'd remind people of the good times Liam and I had, they'd look at me with pity, as if I were a tragic figure unable to let go. When I'd point out how manipulative his actions were, they'd call me bitter. I was trapped. He had built the cage, and everyone I knew had helped him lock the door. I realized then that this was never about friendship. It was about possession. He couldn't possess me as a girlfriend anymore, so he had decided to possess the narrative of our ending. He owned the story, and in his story, I would always be the villain. The invitation to the end of semester house party felt like a test, a trap. Maya was the one who pushed me to go. You can't just hide in here forever, Alara. You need to get out. Show everyone you're fine, that you've moved on. I wasn't fine, and I hadn't moved on. Not from the injustice, but the thought of them all thinking I was hiding, broken, in my room, that was unbearable. So I went. I put on my best dress, did my makeup with a steady hand, and walked in with a smile plastered on my face. It was a mistake. He was there, of course. With her, Clara. They were the center of the room, a gravitational pull of golden couple energy. People were laughing at his jokes. Friends were hugging her like they'd known her for years. Every happy tableau was a carefully constructed scene designed to highlight my irrelevance. I grabbed a plastic cup of cheap wine and tried to blend into the background, but it was impossible. The air was thick with unspoken things. Someone, I think it was Jenna, walked past me and said, just loud enough for me to hear, "It's so good to see Liam genuinely happy again." A dagger, wrapped in a compliment. I was on my second glass of wine when I overheard the final provocation. A group, including Liam and Clara, were clustered by the kitchen. "We're thinking of driving up the coast for spring break," Clara was saying, her voice bright. "Camping under the stars. Liam knows all the best spots. The same trip. The exact same trip I had begged him to take with me for 2 years. The one he always said we couldn't afford, that it was too complicated to plan. Convenient. Something inside me, a wire that had been stretched taut for months, finally snapped. I walked over to the group. The conversation faltered as they saw me approach. The coast? I said, my voice dangerously sweet. How convenient that you can suddenly afford it, Liam. The silence was instant and absolute. Liam's smile vanished. He shot me a look of pure venom. Clara, the perfect, sweet girlfriend, put a gentle hand on his arm. Maybe we should get some air, she said softly, before turning to me with a look of practiced pity. It's important to move forward, Alara, to leave the past in the past. The condescension, the sheer audacity of this stranger lecturing me about my past, it was too much. Before I could respond, Liam stepped forward. You're making people uncomfortable, he said, his voice low and firm. I think you should leave. At his friend's party, a party I was invited to, he was kicking me out, and that's when I lost it. The carefully constructed dam of my composure didn't just break, it detonated. I'm making people uncomfortable? My voice rose, raw and shaking with months of suppressed rage. You want to talk about uncomfortable, Liam? How about you turning every single person I thought was my friend against me? How about you hiding in your apartment from a plate of cookies? How about you calling me a harasser in front of 20 people for returning your goddamn property? The party had stopped. Everyone was staring. And for the first time, I didn't care. You claimed you needed space to heal, I screamed, jabbing a finger in his direction. What a lie. You needed space to line up your replacement so you could play the heartbroken victim while I was being painted as some obsessive monster. You are a coward and a manipulator. I saw it then. The flicker of phones being raised. The small red recording lights. They were documenting my downfall. Liam didn't yell back. He was smarter than that. He just watched me, his expression cold and vindicated. Thank you for proving my point, Alara, he said, his voice calm. It was the cruelest blow of all. He had goaded me into this. He had won. Someone grabbed my arm gently. Ilara, let's go. I was escorted out of the party like a criminal. I could feel their eyes on my back, 100 judgments searing into my skin. They weren't seeing a woman who had been pushed to her breaking point. They were seeing confirmation. They were seeing the crazy ex-girlfriend they had been whispering about for months. The video was everywhere by the next morning. A 2-minute highlight reel of my fury, stripped of all context, of all the silent provocations that led to that moment. And you know the truly messed up part? Even now, watching the shaky footage, hearing my own ragged voice, I still don't think I did anything wrong. I'm human. I have feelings. I have a breaking point. Was I supposed to just stand there and be erased? To smile and nod while he paraded his new life over the ashes of ours? They wanted a villain for their story. They pushed and they prodded and they whispered until I finally gave them one. Landon gets to be the victim. Clara gets to be the savior. And I get to be the crazy bitch who couldn't let go. Fine. If that's the role they need me to play, then so be it. Let them have their villain.